So there I was perusing Facebook, and I happened to see Chemical Overlord. And I thought, oh, that looks interesting. So I looked up the game, and I'm like, yeah, that game looks super interesting. So then I emailed the publisher and said, hey, yo, how about you please send me a review copy? And they did. And then I looked up the publisher and realized that this is their first game that I could see. So I kind of had not the highest hopes for it. Boy, let me tell you, I was completely wrong. Chemical Overlord will be gathering 1 to 4 players to sit around the table and see who becomes the next Elder Alchemist. This game is what they call a deck building game, and if you're new to modern board gaming, deck building games are games where each player starts off with their own deck of cards, usually about 10 cards, and they will be using those cards to purchase more cards to add to their deck. So by the end of the game, the player has built a nice, thick, possibly, deck of cards that they can call their own and that hopefully will lead them to victory. And as you may have noticed, this game takes up quite a bit of space. However, I don't mind that it has this large central board because it keeps all the cards nice and tidy in the market. That's kind of nice to have something like that rather than just kind of randomly laying out 10 cards on a table. Anyways, I like the board. And this is the deluxe edition, so I am not quite sure which components are the deluxe ones and which ones you might receive if you were to buy the standard retail edition. All players will start with the same hand, which will be 4 Crimson Ash chemicals and 4 Sapphire Essence chemicals. And you'll receive the value 1 of each one of those, and you will receive 2 volume 2 flasks. And players will shuffle those 10 cards together, put them onto their draw pile, and then draw 5 cards. Throughout the game, players will be accumulating points by purchasing cards that will have printed points on the lower right-hand corner of them, and some of the cards will additionally be giving them points periodically throughout the game. And by the end of the game, the player with the most points wins. During the player's turn, they get 2 actions, and those actions can be taking a coin, buy a flask with said coins, and the cost for the flask are in the lower left-hand corner. Another action could be gaining chemicals. The leftmost chemicals of the Crimson Ash and Sapphire Essence are free. However, the liquid jade does cost a Crimson Ash and Sapphire Essence in order to gain one of those. But those chemicals don't stop there. You can get even stronger or more valuable chemicals by trading in chemicals of the matching kind, and those costs are in the lower left-hand corner of those. And you really do need to upgrade some of those chemical cards because you'll be trying to use those chemicals and those flasks to make potions. And some of the cost on those potions require multiple of each of the colors. Which brings me to the final and most important action of Chemical Overload. That is making the potions. So each potion on here has to fit in a very specific size flask. For instance, this potion has to go in a volume 2 flask. You can't have, say, a volume 5 flask and put a volume 3 potion in it. You have to have the exact flask needed. So let's say that I want to make this cleansing potion. It is a volume 2 potion, so I must use a volume 2 flask. I'll lay that in my play area, and the requirements are 2 red chemicals. So then I can play 2 red chemicals into my play area. Now I have met the requirements for the cleansing potion. When you gain a potion, you check and see where it goes. Most of the potions will go to your deck. This one does. It goes on top of my deck, which is cool because now I know that I'm going to get that card next turn. Some of the cards, however, go to the table. You can table cards and build a tableau of potions that will give you perks or powers throughout the game. It's kind of a neat thing that I don't see in very many deck builders, that there's multiple places that a purchased card could go. And along with the tableau building, some of the cards will gain you victory points during gameplay as well. So not all your points are gained at the end of the game. So that would have been one of my actions. Let's say for my last action, maybe I do want to get a chemical. I'll turn in this red and this blue, and that will give me the liquid jade. That card goes on top of my deck. Later on in the game, when you have potions in your hand, you can play potions as a free action. So when you play potions, it doesn't affect your 2 actions. So it could be a good idea to gain a chemical, it goes on top of your deck, and then play a potion for free that will allow you to draw cards. Now you will draw that chemical that you just purchased, and it will be in your hand, maybe allowing you to buy a second chemical on your turn. But back to my turn, I am done. So now I will take all the cards from my play area, put them in my discard pile, and then I will draw a new hand of 5 cards. And at the end of a player's turn, they don't have to play all the cards in your hand. You can choose to keep some for your next turn, or you can choose to discard any of them to draw 5 new cards for your upcoming turn. And that completes my turn. Whoa, okay, so we need to back up for just a little bit. That cleansing potion that I made is what the game calls a toxic potion. And you can tell that by the green fog around the card's artwork. Now, when a player creates one of these potions, that increases the toxin level. And every time this toxin level goes up and hits a certain point on the game, you reveal one of these toxin cards. And these toxin cards can change gameplay. They can sometimes give player things. They just do all kinds of crazy stuff. And it's kind of a neat thing. I enjoy these, but I could see maybe where some people might not like them. More on that later. But anyways, the player, after they resolve their turn and draw their 5 cards, they would then read the section on the card corresponding to the toxic level, and all players would do what it says or play by the new altered rules until the toxin level reaches a new benchmark in which a new toxic card would be drawn and a new rule change or perk may happen. And play will continue like that until the toxin level reaches the top of the toxin level track, and then you will finish the complete round, meaning that everyone gets equal number of turns. Then the player with the most points is the victor. So now we've done a brief overview of how the game works, let's take a closer look at a couple of the cards and how they function. Lucky Potion is one of my favorite cards because it goes to the table and you gain a coin. So each turn you can just gain a coin. This is another low cost one that's really good. You get to choose one, either gain a coin and draw a card or gain 3 coins. Quick way to make some money. Or here's a classic deck building card, just draw 2 cards. Potion of Choice will help you build out your deck full of chemicals by either choosing to gain a double Crimson Ash, gain a double Sapphire Essence, or gain a single Liquid Jade. Or Victory Potion, just straight up 3 points, goes on the table, doesn't clog up your hand. Kind of the flip side of that, this one here's a mixed bag because it sucks because it goes in your deck because it doesn't actually do anything for you during the game. However, 10 points? 10 points? I also love this one here, the Potion of 3 Wishes, draw a card, gain a coin, gain 1 victory point. And look, the Potion of 3 Wishes, it's even got a little magic lamp on top. That potion. Leave a comment down below on how you feel about the art on that potion. This card here, super, super powerful. Acts as any triple chemical. So if you need a triple jade, no problem. Triple sapphire essence, it's got you covered. Even a triple ash, you bet. So that is Chemical Overload in a nutshell. And I really enjoy this one a lot, like a lot. So let's talk about the stuff that sucks about it. The font on the cards can be a little hard to read if you are farther away from the board than maybe some other players. I wish they maybe made that text a little bolder. But with that being said, though, the artwork does have clues as to what the potion does. For instance, if it makes victory points, well, it'll probably have a little victory point icon on the top of the bottle. So I guess there's that. The game takes up a ton of space, which on the flip side of that, I do appreciate that central board. It keeps everything neat and tidy and in its place. So I guess that's maybe not really a negative, but the player boards themselves, those are nice. And I believe the player boards only come in the deluxe version. So if you get the basic version, you won't have those. Are they necessary? No. But I did notice on the publisher's website that you can purchase neoprene mats. And I think they were very affordable, like maybe $5 a piece. Don't hold me to that because it was just a quick glance right before I recorded the thoughts portion of this video. But I would recommend either getting the deluxe version or having those mats. Granted, they take up a lot of space, but due to the nature of having your draw pile, your discard pile, and your play area, it keeps all of that nice and clean. I would highly recommend getting either one of those options. And Chemical Overlord does suffer from a slow kind of start, a slow burn, as a lot of deck builders typically do. It doesn't really bother me, but in a way, it is kind of interesting because I've seen players go the route of if you draw 3 reds, turning those 3 reds in for a double red, or maybe you want to, use those reds with blues to try to get greens. So, well, I can see players not liking that because your first 2-ish turns maybe might be kind of low and slow. Just hang in there because the turns do go quick. So to me, it's not an issue. But another thing I could see players not liking about this game is the toxic track. I, however, like it. I think it's very interesting and it mixes up gameplay. However, it is a random event that is happening. Sometimes they're good, sometimes it's stuff like draw 5 cards and choose one of them to destroy. So that kind of sucks, because what if you happen to draw all like good cards? You have to destroy one of them. Or one of the potions that we've had was something bananas to the effect of giving your hand to the player to your left. Like, what? So for me, I found it exciting, but I could see others not enjoying that. Card quality I found to be interesting. The cards have held up really well. They are thick, sturdy cards, and they seem to shuffle well. But also, I'm a big fan of the linden finish, and these cards are not that. And the deluxe version has a little wooden flask, which is kind of cute to keep track on the toxin track. However, that little thing falls over all the time. Well, it might not be long, but at least it's thin. Wait, that's not good at all, right? Anyways, and this isn't really the game's fault, but trying to keep track of your 2 actions. I know it seems silly. You're like, Beard, you only have 2 actions. You can't count the 1, 2. Well, since playing those potions are free late game, or maybe even middle of the game, depending on how you're rolling, you may play a potion, do something because of that potion, then maybe buy a flask, and then play another potion, then play another potion, then play another potion. And it feels like you've taken your 2 turns, obviously, but no, you didn't. You actually only took one of your actions by buying a flask. But also, when it becomes difficult to keep track of actions, that usually means you're having a pop and turn, and it's actually really fun. You're just like, bam, potion that does something awesome for me. I'll get points, some coins, bam, another potion, get a free chemical to put on top of my deck, bam, play a potion, draw 2 cards, just put that chemical I just got for free into my hand. The chaining and engine building in this game can be pretty fun and pretty exciting, depending on which set of cards you're playing with, which the back of the rulebook does give 8 different suggested setups. While I haven't played with any random setups myself, I have played with all 8 that are in the back of the rulebook, and I have enjoyed all of them. Yes, some of them more than others, but they did a pretty good job for about 6 of them. That there's a nice synergy between them on what some of the cards do, and can allow you to maybe exploit certain directions and chemicals within the game. And the last thing that sucks about this game is the setup and the teardown, which, I mean, I guess it's kind of the same with a lot of deck builders, but this one, having to go through and separate all your cards back out and put them all back away. But the organizer inside the box is nice, and it has a nice, or I figured out a nice way that I can go through the cards fairly quick to pull them out. I don't recall seeing any suggested layout in the rulebook. I feel like I came up with a good idea for it, but it would have been nice if they would have included that in the rulebook, which the rulebook is nice and clear, and it's a fairly easy teach. I haven't had any problems teaching this game. And the game does come with 4 player aids. Every game should come with enough player aids for each player. But that is enough bashing this game, because I absolutely adore this game. Certainly, to me, a top 10 release in 2024. I have had so much fun playing this game, and at all player counts. It plays just well at 2 players. Your turns are quick, back and forth. 3 players is fine. 4 players is okay too. It does add a little bit more time between your turns, but it's still a very acceptable amount. And there are so many cards in there. It comes with 500 cards, so you can totally mix up the setup each time you play it. And the game does feel very different depending on what potions are available during that game. And I feel that it is a nice twist on deck building, with the cards going one of 2 different places when you buy them. Either them going on top of your deck, or them being table cards. Because the table cards are kind of interesting because it's sort of an engine builder. They don't clog up your hand, they stay on the table, and you can activate them each once per turn. It's just a neat twist that off the top of my head, I can't think of a deck builder that does that. And along those same lines, I think it's a nice twist too that you're able to gain points during the game. Some of the cards will allow you to gain victory points, which is kind of neat too, because there's still the fog of war of not knowing exactly what points players have in their deck. But you do start seeing players accumulating points on their board. So that's something that you can be aware of during gameplay. And the more I play it, the more I see like new strategies revealing themselves, especially with the option to discard cards at the end of your turn, or maybe hold cards until your next turn, because most deck builders, you play your whole hand and it's gone. This one, they don't do that. So you may have a card that says, draw a card, but you're looking and maybe your deck is empty. So if you had to draw a card, you would have to shuffle your discard pile. But maybe you have some juicy potions in your play area that aren't in your discard pile yet, so they wouldn't go into that shuffle. So you're thinking, man, I would love to draw some more cards, but I think I'm gonna wait and set on this card till my next turn, so that way I can get those juicy potions into my discard pile, shuffle that, and then that will become my deck. But this game has grown on me so much, I want to play it right now. I just love playing this game. Every group that I've played it with has also enjoyed it. I highly recommend this game. Teetering on a 4.5 or a 5 out of 5 on this one. I mean, based on my feelings right now, this one is a 5 out of 5. It's definitely in my top 10 this year. Really enjoying this game. Despite its small flaws, this one is so much fun. Really enjoying this one. That's Chemical Overload by Rebirth Games.